Imagine dedicating 15 years of your life to the Department of Justice, earning praise, building a career, only to be fired because you refuse to lie in court. That's exactly what whistleblower Arez Ruveni says happened, and his story is now shaking the very foundation of the DOJ. Senator Chris Van Hollen confronted Attorney General Pam Bondi head-on about this explosive complaint, and what followed was a revealing exchange that raises serious questions about truth, power, and accountability inside our justice system.
Madam Attorney General, yesterday, Arez Ruveni filed a whistleblower complaint against the Department of Justice. As I think you know, he was a 15-year veteran of the Department of Justice. He received commendations during the first Trump administration for all his work at DOJ, but he filed a detailed account of his recent experience at the Department of Justice, saying that prior to his determination, that he was terminated after he refused to sign an appeal brief that was unsupported by evidence or the law. And he says, "I didn't sign up to lie." In response to his termination, you made a statement on Fox News a little while ago saying, "At my direction, every Department of Justice attorney is required to zealously advocate on behalf of the United States, and that any attorney who fails to abide by this direction will face consequences." So, General Bondi, I guess the direct question is, he says he was fired because he didn't want to make an untruthful statement to a court of law. I have two questions. Number one, I assume you agree that zealous advocacy does not mean telling untruths to courts of law. And second, if that's not the case, what did you mean by saying he was not a zealous advocate?
Senator Van Hollen, this is all pending litigation, as you're well aware, and the timing of it, I can't discuss pending litigation. This is a whistleblower lawsuit pending within my office, but I will say the timing of it I find suspect, as he takes hits at Emil Bovee, who is one of the best human beings I know, one of the smartest, brilliant men I know, who will soon become a federal judge. And his hearing happens to be today, and I find the irony of the timing of it pretty remarkable, the lawsuit. But this had to do with attorney-client privilege information that was disclosed. I can't talk about the substance, but what I will tell you, and you have obviously my word, any zealous advocacy means to be done ethically and honestly, always. And that's what I mean by zealous advocacy. He also accused Emil Bovee of things that Todd Blanche, who is one of the best human beings I also know, my Deputy Attorney General, was in the room and said did not happen. But again, I wish I could get into greater detail. I can't because it's pending. But I stand by Emil Bovee and I stand by Todd Blanche every day, and I always will.
Well, Madam Attorney General, I will say that his account seems to have lots of information. So as you say, this will obviously be something that's litigated or reviewed through due process procedures. But I have to say that it's very, very disturbing. We've also heard from others in other departments who are responsible for implementing the laws of the United States that they feel uncomfortable about having been asked to do things that they thought were unethical. Let me go on to some of the budget questions, and I really want to follow up on my colleagues, Senator Moran and Senator Collins. But the DOJ grant funding is being sort of cut back on two fronts. One, in April, the department terminated hundreds of grant awards, notifying grantees that their current grant funds were gone, effective immediately. That included, law enforcement training grants, technical assistance awards, some dating back to fiscal year, I think, 2017. So, question number one is, are you going to be releasing those funds? The second concern regarding grants has to do with the monies that were appropriated in this fiscal year, in March. And my understanding is that DOJ is withholding an overwhelming number of notices of funding opportunities, NOFOs, meaning that grantees who rely on these grants, including many who provide services to victims of crimes, are literally in some cases running out of money. For example, the department's biggest grant-making component, the Office of Justice Programs, has only posted one notice for fiscal year 25, NOFO notice. So if you could answer the question with respect to both those pieces.
Sure, and that's a very valid question, Senator. The notices will be going out in coming weeks about the grants. And we did cut grants by 6%, and I'm here to tell every senator, if we did cut a grant that you care about that is specific to your state, please contact me. I've turned on grants that were cut off. So please, if that happens, there's an appeal process, but you can pick up the phone and you can call me, and I would be more than happy to look at that. I never want to take away a grant that is actually helping Americans, helping victims, helping law enforcement, and we're looking at it on a case-by-case basis, and many of those are being appealed already, but you have my word, we will look at all of those, absolutely.
Thank you. And in terms of the other piece of the question, when the notices for information will go out, because the fiscal year obviously is, running out, and we are hearing from lots of entities that are waiting for those notices so they can apply for the grant funding.
Yeah, yes, Senator. The notice of funding is consistent with our priorities, and they're finalizing it right now. It will be going out very shortly.
Very shortly. All right. Thank you.
It'll be posted on a rolling basis too, I believe.
Okay. If you could just keep us posted on that. And I would appreciate it, Madam Attorney General, if you could have your team or respond to a letter that about 30 senators wrote to you on this topic of the prior fiscal year funds that were frozen.
I will make sure they look at that letter. I think we've received probably thousands of letters.
You've gotten lots of letters. But we really do need, in order to do our job, to get responses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Attorney General.
What we just saw in this tense exchange between Senator Chris Van Hollen and Attorney General Pam Bondi cuts to the heart of two fundamental questions. Can the Department of Justice truly be trusted to uphold the law with integrity? And what happens when whistleblowers step forward to challenge the system? The case of Arez Ruveni, a DOJ veteran of 15 years, is especially troubling. This isn't some partisan outsider trying to make headlines. This is a man who built his career inside the department, earned commendations, and served under multiple administrations. For him to say publicly, "I didn't sign up to lie," that's not just a resignation letter. That's a direct alarm bell that something deeply unethical may be happening behind closed doors. Bondi's response was telling. Instead of directly addressing whether DOJ attorneys are being pressured to mislead the courts, she pivoted to procedural limitations, saying the issue is tied to pending litigation, and then quickly defended her close allies, including Amal Bowie and Todd Blanche. Notice what she didn't say. She never directly denied Ruveni's claim that he was fired for refusing to back a brief unsupported by facts or law. She simply insisted that zealous advocacy must be ethical, but gave no real assurance that this standard was upheld in Ruveni's case. And here's where the larger picture comes into focus. Senator Van Hollen was right to press further. This isn't just about one whistleblower. Across agencies, we've seen government professionals express discomfort when asked to push legal arguments or policy decisions they consider unethical. When whistleblowers speak out, it's often at tremendous personal cost. And if their warnings are dismissed or buried, the accountability gap inside government only widens. Then there's the second issue, DOJ grant funding. The Attorney General admitted that grants were cut by 6%, affecting everything from law enforcement training to services for crime victims. She tried to soften the blow by pointing to an appeal process and urging senators to call her directly if something in their state got cut. But think about what that means. Instead of stable, reliable funding streams, programs are left scrambling, hoping political pressure will get their grant reinstated. That's not a sustainable or fair system. Victims of crime, community organizations, and local police departments shouldn't have to rely on phone calls from senators to keep their lifeline of resources intact. And Bondi's assurances about notices of funding opportunities being posted very shortly don't change the fact that organizations are already running out of money right now. For victims of domestic violence, for families seeking justice, for communities fighting crime, those delays are not just bureaucratic, they're life-altering. So here's the bottom line. This hearing exposed two critical cracks in the justice system. First, a culture where whistleblowers risk retaliation for standing on principle. Second, a funding process where critical programs are subjected to political discretion rather than protected by steady oversight. Both issues raise the same fundamental question. Is the Department of Justice fulfilling its mission to serve the American people fairly, or is it prioritizing loyalty and politics over truth and accountability? And that's where we come in as citizens. These hearings matter because they bring hidden struggles into the light. But the real test is whether the public pays attention, asks the hard questions, and demands better. If whistleblowers are silenced, if victims' programs are starved, then the system breaks down quietly. But when we hold leaders accountable, when we insist on transparency and ethical conduct, the Department of Justice is forced to live up to its name. So ask yourself, should whistleblowers like Arez Ruveni be punished or protected? Should DOJ funding depend on politics or on justice? That's the conversation we need to have, and it starts with staying informed and refusing to look away. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future deep dives. Because the truth matters, and together we can make sure it's not ignored.